suggest that you come and take your seats here. We have a very interesting panel on innovating for health and the future of food. I'm pleased to welcome you here. I'm Joseph Clark, the president of the Toronto Global Forum. And on behalf of Cogeco and all of our partners, we welcome you to this session. I'd like to now introduce our speakers. Frédéric Guichard is president and CEO of Danone Canada, one of the best-known food companies in the world. He has been at Danone and its associated companies for over 25 years. He has traveled the world, but more importantly, he has worked the world and brought that knowledge back to Canada. I'd also like to introduce Stephanie Hughes, an equities reporter with BNN Bloomberg. Stephanie, I understand that moderating sessions, traveling to different sessions is part of what you do and part of what you enjoy. We are delighted to have you here with us today. Please come and take the stage, and I will try and quiet those folks down.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. Oh my goodness, I really love this setup. Look at this late night show. We got the crowd, we've got the energy. It's all coming together. So again, really appreciate you being here. I'm Stephanie Hughes, the equities reporter at Bloomberg, and I am joined by Frédéric today to have a really interesting conversation about health foods, inflation, a lot of different topics that we have to dig into. But before we get into all that and jump into a really engaging conversation, Frédéric, I really want to turn it to you for some brief remarks about Danone Canada. You know, it's one of the leading food players in the country for brands like Activia, Oikos, which I had one of those this morning, and Silk and other names that you can find in the grocery store aisles. So if you could just share some of your thoughts, some of your opening remarks about Danone's mission, your journey. How's it been so far, man?
Thank you, Stephanie, and thanks a lot for hosting me on your show. Really appreciate it. I hope you guys are hearing me well, because the sound here on the platform is absolutely awful. But I'm really excited to be here with you to talk about food, to talk about health and innovation, and see how those three combined can create a resilient business in Canada. So thanks for the introduction. I mean, yes, Danone is one of the largest fast-moving companies, consumer good companies in Canada. We're part of the top 15 right now, and certainly one of the fastest growing these days, and quite successful because we are probably spot on trends. We have been operating for a long time in Canada, but what sets us apart, really, I believe, is not so much to be a food company, but it's more that we're a purpose-driven company with a mission to bring health through food to as many people as possible. And this is the global platform we're working on. And it's not like just a slogan that is coming out of the blue. It's something that is rooted in the origin of the company. I don't know if you know, but Danone yogurts were started to be made 100 years ago, initially with ferments from the Pasteur Institute. So we were working with scientists in France, in labs with inspiration of Nobel Prize winner scientists who were working on ferments and gut health. And the first products were sold in pharmacies. So during the following 100 years, we've been obsessed by bringing science into food and innovation to bring products that would have a positive impact on the health of people and deliver them in the most tasteful way for people so that they can put it in their daily habits. And so that's what has driven us to become a B Corp company now. So we're walking the talk really on this mission on every day, and we are being assessed for that by external stakeholders. So we have a governance that is pushing us really to be better every day. And as a consequence of this strategy and also of this status specific that we have, We now have a portfolio of food products which is more than 85% made of healthy products in the sense of the global standards on health, and that's what makes the company unique.
Now, when people talk about health foods and high protein yogurts, they sometimes often associate that with higher cost, more expensive items in the grocery store, and that has really, it's a topic that is top of mind for most Canadians, just food inflation that's been made worse by inflation in global supply chain disruptances. So how do you navigate rising food inflation and still maintain choice for your customers when it comes to healthy food? How do you, and without giving the full brunt of those inflationary impacts to consumers? How do you approach that, and how do you find that consumers are responding to that?
So that's a very good question. It's true that lately we've seen in Canada and in other parts of the world that the cost of food has become a big question for people and a burden for some people. Now, when we research consumers, and we have a good understanding of that because we're reaching now 75% of households in Canada. When we research consumers today, we realize that yes, this has become a growing concern, but still the health for them is still the number one criteria for choosing food. And if you think about it, it's not like a big surprise because you may know, but 1 adult out of 2 in Canada is suffering from a chronic illness today, whether it's diabetes, hypertension, and most of these, and people know it now more and more, are very often nutrition-driven and food-driven. So Canadians are more and more knowledgeable of the fact that nutrition can have a super strong impact on their own health, and they are becoming very choiceful. So when it comes to make trade-offs, because the times are getting harder, they are usually going for trade-offs in favor of products that are beneficial for their health first. And then they manage the economic trade-off versus other categories that are less impacting. Yeah, so that's what we see today on the market. That's why, for instance, products that are high in protein today are completely going through the roof. The demand is exploding across categories, and it's very true for yogurt products, for instance, who are naturally rich in protein. And so the higher protein versions of those products, even if they are not the least expensive, least expensive yogurts on the market, but still the demand is boosting because probably the nutritional density of this product is interesting for people. They get the nutrients that they need, and if you compare that to other categories like, I don't know, meats or that can bring the same amount, they are more expensive. So you could think, yes, we're going to have an issue in terms of affordability, but the reality is that the trade-offs are being made across categories. So people are directing themselves to what matters the most in terms of their own health. They are interested in protein very strongly. They are interested in gut health today. You know that, I mean, there is a common knowledge that 70% of the immune system is in your gut, and we've all heard this kind of stuff, but the science is getting stronger and stronger on that topic. And now what we learn about the microbiome is really showing that a healthy microbiome can prevent infections, can even improve the overall well-being and mood even of people. That's now clinically proven. So people are naturally demanding on product that will help the health of their gut.
Right.
And for instance, in Danone, we've pioneered probiotics 20 years ago with Activia. And that's why researching consumers today, we have been launching a new product called Activia Experts, which is containing prebiotics, but also probiotics and 7 grams of protein, and in a delicious formula, by the way, you can try. Which means it's the product that is tailor-made, for the choices they want to make today. So this is what we do. I mean, we research what consumers want in terms of health. We leverage the global research we have to, produce ferments and recipes that are actively having an impact on them, and we craft them locally in recipes that Canadians like, with the flavors they like, with the texture they like, so it becomes a daily habit for them.
For sure. So it sounds like it's an investment that Canadians are willing to make. And speaking of consumer trends, the Buy Canada effect has been a really big topic this year. I know of a few friends and family who insist on buying Canadian products. To what degree are you actually seeing that play out in your own business? We've heard about it from the grocers. They're really seeing that dynamic, at least in the interim. But are you seeing that in your company, Danone Canada? Has there been a flock to your products at a full embrace? What have you been seeing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. There's been a lot of talks about that since the beginning of the movement, since everything that happened in the trade area. And it's been hot, debates. What we have seen, first is to say we were not so worried about the potential negatives because we are producing most of our products in Canada, proudly in Boucherville area in Quebec, where we have our yogurt factory, and we also leverage a network of local partners for the other products. But we were interested to see if it would have a positive impact as well. So we promoted that actually in the beginning, and what we noticed is actually that the impact on consumers in the beginning seemed to be peaking a bit, but it doesn't seem that it's a very sustainable trend at the moment. So we've seen that retailers have leveraged that a lot to prove who's more Canadian than the others, etc., and they have really created an excitement around this, and it has an impact on the execution in store that we can get, on our products, but we don't see a super strong impact. No, when it comes to choosing the product, it can be something important for people, but maybe it's more important on commoditized products where you don't have an extra or a specific added value. In the case of products that have a benefit on health, this remains the number one criteria for choice. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. And have there been any consumer trends? We talked about price, we talked about health, we talked about patriotism. Have there been any trends in the consumer space that have surprised you the most? And how are you navigating the next wave of anticipated consumer changes?
Well, maybe, the most surprising one that I can think about is really the acceleration of the need for protein. If you look at it, protein is everywhere today. Like, you have pasta enriched with protein, you have grains enriched with proteins. Everybody's coming to the market with a proposal, which maybe at some point will have a limit because, like every trend, people are eventually maybe gonna be confused. So it's very important for us to ground the high protein offers into solid, science background, explaining also with transparency what products do, what they don't, to people, and consumers respect that a lot. So that's why also it's important to build strong brand franchises that are credible, that are trustful for the consumers, so they know, through all the noise that they are bombarded every day, what the right information is for them in terms of health and nutrition, and they can make rightful choices. But this is really the trend that we see across categories, which is driving the most attention today.
Sure, and another topic this year has been food security, sustainability, and it's, you see those headlines about Canadians going to food banks and whatnot. What role should a global food company play in Canadian food security?
So I believe that companies like ours, have an important responsibility toward this. And the first one is to try and keep the costs as low as possible so that this doesn't translate into a higher price for consumers, because we're very conscious that, there is a limit. So, for instance, this year, of course, there's been some hits from tariffs, even if we are produced locally, from some ingredients that would transit from, through US, etc. We have absorbed that through very strong levels of productivity inside our operations. So, like, really taking care of our whole supply chain, making sure we make the efforts to be more efficient in manufacturing. So we've implemented a lot of innovation also in that field, in our ways of working, in the systems we use that have been able to reduce waste, for instance. So that's very important. We are leveraging also our scale at a global level, and that's what large companies can do to really purchase better, to make sure that we don't have a strong impact on consumers' price. That's the first thing. But then what you need to know as well, maybe you do, is that large corporations like ours, we make a lot of efforts locally to try to contribute to tackling the topics of food insecurity. Especially in Danone, there is a topic that is dear to our heart, which is about children. You know that today in Canada, that's crazy to hear, but 1 child out of 3 goes to school with an empty stomach today. Let it sink a bit, because that's crazy for a country of that level of development, if you think about it. But that's the truth. And so there are lots of associations like the Breakfast Club of Canada, which we are partnering, have been partnering for 30 years already, every year with the involvement of all our employees, etc., that are doing good to try to serve, millions of breakfast to children every year at school. And we contribute to that. We donate millions of products every year. We work with them. Our employees go and serve breakfast with them. We're very connected. I am also at the board of an association called the Grocery Foundation, with a lot of partners in the industry and in the retail industry, whose role is to raise funds, also to give money to those associations that are helping to solve this topic. So companies do a lot already, but where we can do better probably is that this, at the end of the day, is a patch that we put on something that doesn't work today systematically. And we need probably to raise our voice in terms of solving that problem for good, with all the partners, with the authorities, with everybody, governments that can be involved, because everybody has to play an important part in that. So I see that things are moving in this field at government level, and I hope we can keep contributing, really.
For sure, and I'd love to dig in further to that question. Unfortunately, we only have a bit more, some time left, a couple minutes left, so maybe you can touch on some of the ESG element in this next questions. I want to leave the last word to you and have you walk us through what excites you most about the future of food. How are you, both in Canada and globally, and what innovations and public policies are you going to be most focused on? Any scientific developments or any policies within Canada that you're happy about, maybe some that could be worked on? How does this all tie into what you're doing and how you view the future of how we eat?
Thank you for that. Yes. I think that generally speaking, we underestimate the role of food in Canada, both on the health of people, but also on the medical care spendings that the country is doing, the role in the economy, because of course healthier people means also a healthier economy. And we have challenges in Canada. Like I said, the proportion of people that are suffering from diet-related issues is strong and is growing. So the food insecurity you mentioned is a very important thing to tackle. So I think that we need to put food more at the center of the attention. We talk a lot about energy, we talk a lot about, very important sectors, defense, etc. But food is very, very important in the sovereignty and the development of the people in Canada. And Canadians know it. They know that it's good for their health, so they get, more and more knowledgeable. They learn a lot, and that's good because they can help us to put pressure, and they put pressure on companies to deliver better products, healthier products, more sustainable products. So if I have a wish, really, is that, for Danone, it's not going to change a lot because that's our mission. We bring health through food to as many people as possible. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to do it in a sustainable way. We are actually at the forefront, for instance, of transitioning on our packagings. Yeah, we are actually, right now, as we speak, transitioning the packagings of the Oikos cups to a much more recyclable plastic, which is PET, which is going to improve drastically the amount of plastic that we are going to be able to recycle inside the product. So we're at the forefront of that, but what we hope is that the pressure of consumers and the policymakers can help to create a movement around that. And for instance, if there were some incentives towards, products that are healthier, products that are more sustainable, making them, I don't know, cheaper to produce, for instance, or less taxed, that's something that could, as we have seen in other topics, that could nudge probably a bit more, the public to go and buy and therefore create a healthier society in Canada. So that's something we're going to push for, and that I hope that will create a movement around.
Well, I really appreciate you giving an answer that really tied on to everything we discussed, like the consumer trends, the policy angle of it, the social responsibility, and the pricing therein. That's been a really important topic. And I want to thank everybody for being here, and I want to thank Toronto Global Forum for inviting both of us here. This has been a really fun conversation, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the event.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks.
Frédéric and Stephanie, you've set a wonderful table for us all. It's healthy and it's going to taste really great. So let's show our appreciation to the two of them for setting the table.